Hey guys, welcome back to the Otter Creek in Rio Grande. And I'm going to do something a little different, something that, I haven't really ever done on the channel before, and that's mess with a locomotive. What I have here is a Blackstone K-27. And if you're familiar with these particular models, some of them, for sure in the first run, I'm not sure what year that was, something tells me 2015, 2016, but I could be misremembering. They may have came out as early as like 2012. Regardless, some of these locomotives were over-greased at the factory, and they would bind up and not run. And I was lucky enough to get two of those undecorated. And I put some pictures up on the HO Narrogager's Facebook page and kind of asked a few questions. There's a couple of different ways that you can deal with this. One's to burn the grease out by hooking it up to DC and running it on DC until you see smoke come out of the motor. I understand that that's really not recommended, because if you want the motor to work well, you should disassemble the motor, clean the grease out, clean the motor, put the motor back together, put it back in the model. Now, I attempted to do that, and what I discovered is pulling the flywheel off and or the worm gear was more of a chore than what I had hoped. And I didn't feel like I really had the right tools to do it. So I ended up sending the other one of these to Blackstone, and it should be here next week. So another method is to just completely replace the motor that's in there with a factory produced motor that they came out with to kind of fix the problem. And that's what I have here. Now, Blackstone no longer produces this, or the factory that Blackstone made use of does not produce this. So I got lucky. Mike Conder had one of these on hand, saw my Facebook post and said, hey, I'll sell you the one I've got for a really good deal, so long as you promise to video it. So here I am. And I called Blackstone, about the other locomotive, and I asked, I think it was Tom is who I talked to. I can't remember. I apologize if I didn't get his name correct. But I said, on a scale from 1 to 10, how difficult is it to replace this? And he says, oh, it's super easy. It's just 3 screws, essentially is what I got from him. And he gave me a few other details. So here I am. I'm going to try and replace this, or replace what's in here with this, and see if I can't get a running model for the first time since I purchased this thing. I purchased this pre-pandemic, so I got a pretty good price for it, but unfortunately it's just never run. Now, the first thing I want to do, because I haven't done yet, is go ahead and test and make sure that this motor does run. I have no reason to think it wouldn't, but I think it would be prudent to go ahead and check and make sure that it runs. I've got a DC power supply on the bench that's variable. It's not like a train controller. It's, I don't know what you call it, just a bench DC power supply. It's not, I don't know if you guys can see, but it's not moving yet. I'm just going to dial up the voltage here. There we go. About 1 volt. And it starts moving, and it's not pulling any amps. So I would say that's pretty good. All right, that's out of the way. The next trick is to detach the tender from the locomotive. And they've got kind of this positive drawbar thing here, and there's a little clip there. I'm gonna use a different holder here. Hold on. So, you know, for the record, I do not consider myself any kind of expert in this at all. I'm a complete novice, so there's a high probability I could screw something up. Here we go. All right. It's kind of a matter of being patient and working it a little bit at a time. All right. Now we'll see about what we need to do to get the boiler off. I think I've done this one time before, and I don't really remember. I'm going to have to consult the operator's manual. Okay, step 1 is to remove this, which is the screw that holds the plug on. And then it should be able to be moved to the side. And then there's another Phillips head screw underneath it. That sucker was tight. Okay. I know you probably can't see what I'm doing, but and I'm laying these screws out. You know, everything that comes off is going in order. I've got a little a towel there that's got little checkers on it, so I can put each screw kind of in the order that it comes out. Now there's another screw just underneath the pilot truck. I can get into it. The screw is so short that, you know, it's completely loose in there, but I can't get underneath it with my tweezers. Don't fly away. Okay. A smart person, you know, if they didn't know what they were doing, would probably write these down as they come out. Have a little piece of paper attached or right next to each screw so you know exactly where it came from, because all three of these are different sizes. All right, now we are supposed to remove the boiler supports from either side of the smoke box, or it doesn't really want to come out. It's kind of a pressed fit, I guess. Nice. It looks like the smoke box door is wanting to come off. I expect those will be fun to put back in. All right, now I need to pull the reversing reach rod off of the right-hand side of the locomotive. Reversing reach rod. I'm looking at the left side. Okay, it's plastic and it's right here. It just kind of sits in there. All right, the next thing is the vertical handrails at the rear of the cab plug into the rear cab support frame located on the chassis. These will need to be replaced in the proper holes when reassembling. Note the proper location and routing of the sander pipes, one on each side just ahead of the number 2 driver. And the injector pipes behind the brake cylinder below the cab before disassembly. Okay. We'll try and find all that. I think I know what they're talking about. I think some of it becomes a little more obvious when you take it apart. I faced some technical difficulties, which seems to be a theme this week. So I reached up to turn the camera off because it sits right up above me as I'm, doing everything. I guess I missed, and the camera kept rolling, and I recorded some things that had no value, and then I reached up to turn the camera back on, turned the camera off, recorded things that should have been in the video. It didn't get recorded because I turned the camera off, and near as I can tell, that happened a couple of different times where I ended up with some garbage footage of me kind of talking to myself off camera and not working on anything that you could see. So I'm going to try and explain what was missed. And the boiler coming off is one of the things that I didn't get recorded. And these grab irons, there's little bitty holes that they just go into. And, for a little bit, I was thinking that the grab irons came out somewhere, and they really don't. The cab just lifts off like that. So that was one thing. And then the next thing was desoldering the wire leads, which, you know, they were super simple. One's on this side on the circuit board, and the black one's on the other side. No issues there. But then the next thing was the 3 screws that hold this in. And one of these screws, this one right here, can easily be seen at the bottom. If I can show it here, if I can get the right light, just behind that first driver. So that was easily seen. So I had it in my mind that all 3 of them were, and so I needed to take this off, this plastic piece here that holds the brake detail and covers the gear. I assumed that needed to come off to access the other 2 holes. Because if you look here, again, if I can get it to focus, I saw these recesses and assumed that screws recessed into it. Well, as it turns out, both of the screws come in from the top on the backside. So, you know, there was a lot of me messing about with that plastic piece on the bottom there that didn't need to be messed with at all. So I'll jump back in here in the video and kind of pick up with what else I did from that point on. I was trying to see if you could actually see. Yeah, there you go. How much grease may have been in there, which I still don't really understand. You know, how did that work its way up into the motor? But it's a thing, I guess. All right, now let's see if I can put the new one back in. Now, this looks completely dry. So let's go ahead and over-grease it and make sure we do the exact same thing they did at the factory in China. I'm kidding. From what I understand, it doesn't take very much of this stuff in actuality. And there's probably still plenty on the gears. Now, this little plastic doohickeys there, I think that's what measures the chuff. And there's a little plastic piece right here that has to go inside. That was kind of the one caution that Tom told me about, is to make sure that it rides there. And indeed it does. I guess I will put a screw in and see. Near as I can tell, it's seated. It's interesting that those two screws are such drastically different sizes. Getting this big one in is probably going to be a trick. Aha! Turns out my screwdriver was magnetic enough to hold it so I could put it in there. Okay. Time to solder the power wires. I think it'll be okay, but I think I can do better too. I struggled with that wire for probably 10 minutes trying to get it to lay in such a way that it would work with me instead of against me. I'm going to try again. Okay, I got that black wire off camera. And now I'm going to try to do the red. And I'm not going to guarantee that, because I have to have my magnifying glasses to do this, so. Okay, I think that's it. Now to put it back together and see if it runs, or maybe I should do that before I put it back together. I think I can do that. All right, kind of after I thought about it, in order to test it, I think I probably would have needed to put the tender on without the boiler, so I didn't decide to do that, and I also spared you me putting the boiler back on. It was, not a huge deal. I would definitely say it goes back on more difficult than it comes off, because you've got the sanding pipes that you kind of have to look out for, and then getting the two grab irons on the back of the cab threaded back into the little holes that are in the chassis. That was a little frustrating, but I've done far worse. So now let's see if this thing runs. All right, I hear it, so it is making contact anyway. Let's pull it up on ye old throttle. Okay, I'm reversed. And the headlight. It doesn't look like the headlight is working. Okay. All right, we have movement. It's I think more than I've ever seen it move before. maybe, I can't remember. I have two of these. One, I did the oil, the burnout of the oil, on DC. One of them, it kind of worked for a while, but then it ended up seizing up again later on, and I think it must have been this one because it kind of acts like it's already got momentum built in. All right, it looks like it's going to work. I don't like the fact that there's no headlight. And take it for a spin and do a few things with it just to make sure it runs well, kind of at multiple speeds. It looks like it's gonna run. I'm fairly pleased with that. I've been needing to do that for a long time, so when I get the other one from Blackstone back, I'll have two locomotives that haven't been running on the railroad, so that's going to be nice. Now, if you're popping in for the first time here and haven't subscribed, please feel free to do so. I will be doing more of this kind of thing in the future. I can't guarantee anytime soon that I will, but I've got probably a half a dozen locomotives, brass locomotives that need decoders put in them. I plan on doing all of that work myself. Just going to be a learning process for me, but you guys are more than welcome to come along for the ride here at the Otter Creek and Rio Grande. We'll see you around. Thanks for watching.